it's good to know the term. It's good to know all the memorize all the prayers, because then next life we'll remember them. But just think the thoughts. So the thoughts are, first of all, we're thinking, first of all, let's offer a mandala. Let's offer all the marvelous things of the world to the Buddha as a request for the teachings. That's so auspicious. Then, so that's first one. Saji perki zhugxing metog. Just pile up all the marvelous things of the world. Use your creative imagination, okay? Saji perki zhugxing metog. Tramri rablingji. Ni de genpaji. Sangye jingdu. Mikte ulwagi. Drokon nam dag jingla. Chapashok. And then we imagine Buddha very happily receives our offering. Hiram Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. So now we think, those of us who already actually have identified with being a Buddhist formally, so we remind ourselves of our reliance on the Buddha and his teachings. Hang on. Oh no. Go away. And the second thing is, hang on. I've got to do something. Wait. Okay. So the first thing is we remind ourselves of our reliance on the Buddha and his teachings. The second one is stating our motivation, stating our purpose. We're here to listen to these teachings to see if there's some advice we can get from it that we can put into practice in our lives to help us the long term, to get rid of all the rubbish and grow all the goodness, become a Buddha, so we can be a benefit to others long term. That's it. Sangye chodang soke chognam la jang cho badu dagni kyab su chi dagi chonyen gi personam ki rola penche sangye drubha shok sangye chodang soke chognam la jang cho badu dagni kyab su chi dagi chonyen gi personam ki rola penche sangye drubha shok. In other words, we're saying, you know, we rely on Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and by the merit of listening to these teachings, may we become a Buddha so we can benefit all sentient beings. Okay. So what we've been talking about these last days of these so-called strange concept, these 8 worldly dharmas, but just it's a more pervasive way that it's telling us, it's explaining to us a more pervasive way that attachment functions. So I think it's appropriate to say in the very first stages of practice, as we've talked, we look at the Lam Rim, the very first stages of practice in the renunciation component of the path, the main purpose is to control ourselves. The main purpose is to harness our body, speech, and mind and back off and leave sentient beings alone and at least don't harm them. That's the main emphasis. So there, when we start to learn about attachment, which effectively, when we learn about the Four Noble Truths and we learn about attachment, it effectively is the main cause of suffering. We learn about it at a more gross level. We learn about it more in terms of not jumping on every sense object that makes us excited, you know. But here, it seems to me, in the Bodhisattva path, and it's taught in the context of this more radical approach to practice, to achieving Buddhahood, this outrageous kind of paradigm shift in our mind of exchanging self for others. So the main emphasis in the first stage is to get renunciation of suffering and its causes, because we're sick of suffering. The next level is to try and get bodhicitta, to try and remove the delusions from the mind so that we can be, there's no barrier between self and other. I mean, which is an outrageous idea. And we can't begin to do that until we've done some junior school and high school. That's what we have to understand. So in the Bodhisattva path, they go into more detail. It seems these so-called 8 worldly dharmas, I mean, it's coming way back to India. I don't know who coined this phrase. Nagarjuna, perhaps, I don't even know. But it's just a more pervasive way that attachment works. And like I said last week, I'd look at the different lamas, say them in different ways. So I've just got a list here. And it's kind of interesting because they say them quite differently. It's very curious, especially the way Lama Zopa puts it. It seems quite different from all the others, or seems to miss one. It's very curious. And they all say different ways. So I'll just say, I'm trying to combine all of them. So as Geshe Sopa says in the most concise way, Geshe Sopa says, these eight worldly concerns, basically, 4 arise as attachment to getting things, having happy feelings, hearing praising words, and having a good reputation. And then aversion to the opposite, basically, aversion to the opposite, not getting things or not having things, to having unpleasant feelings, to hearing criticism, and to have a bad reputation. That's the essence of the four, you know. So I mean, we think of those things, we think, oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, I don't mind if I don't have things. Yeah, pain isn't so good. Yeah, I'd rather have pleasure. But we don't give much thought to it. Because when we understand way back in junior school in the renunciation component, when we listen to the Four Noble Truths, we hear in depth Buddha's really detailed analysis of what suffering is and what its causes are. And this is not the philosophical materialist view. It is not the Christian view. It is not the Muslim view. It is not, you know, other views. It's very distinct and very precise and it's unique to the Buddha. So we don't, that's not detailed here in the Bodhisattva path, because the assumption is we've learned it already in the wisdom wing. But, you know, we've got to remind ourselves. And this is the point about attachment. It literally runs the universe. It literally is underpinning everything we think and do and say. Even the nice people, even when we're being nice people, like we're not running around raping and killing too many people, I don't think. We're sitting here trying to be good little Buddhists, trying to be good little human beings who work on our minds. That's pretty unique on this planet, to even consciously want to become a better person. So because in our materialist view, we have this view, there are nice people and then there are the wackos, there are the psychopaths, the extremely suffering, demented people, you know? That's very much how we feel. So we put ourselves in the nice category. And then of course, because in our materialist philosophical views, ordinary people like us, who have some jealousy and some attachment and some anger and some depression, and I mean some serious depression, serious anxiety, that are, you know, that we can, this is the point, we consider this normal. And what we mean by normal is that you'd be abnormal if you didn't have these, if you weren't like that. So in other words, the assumption in our psychology, in our neuroscience, in our world, and therefore in our minds, because this is the world we live in, that, you know, it's just normal to be depressed. It's normal to get anxious. It's normal not to like people who harm you. It's normal to get angry if your boyfriend's mean to you. It's normal to love the people who are kind to you. So in other words, we question, so we only go so far. So Buddha, quite literally, is just more radical in the way he goes into the mind, and he's more radical in the way he assesses what are the causes of suffering. He's more radical in general about what are the causes of suffering, because as far as he's concerned, and this is a real shock to us, as far as he's concerned, the causes of suffering are in the mind. This is the most radical view of all. And this is the essence of the Buddhist approach to life. And that implies his incredibly outrageous, radical view of the potential we've got once we've removed from the mind all these neuroses, you know. So his view is extremely radical, psychologically speaking. Don't hear it as religion, as a mere belief. This is psychology. And it's when we really, in the nuts and bolts of understanding karma and the mind and the Four Noble Truths in the first and second scopes of the Lam Rim, in junior school and high school, in the renunciation component, in the wisdom wing, that's when we really do the work of knowing technically how Buddha's talking, you know. So that's all informing our understanding now and our approach to these 8 worldly dharmas. In other words, to this more radical approach of, part of this whole approach, it includes this whole attitude of welcoming problems. This has to be seen in the context of understanding these 8 worldly dharmas, you know. Because why there's logic to it. Why do we want to welcome problems? In the beginning stages of practice, you do not welcome problems because we're not educated enough. We're too out of control. If we have a problem, we punch and kick and shout and get depressed and lie and steal and kill, etc. So we've got to calm our body and speech and mind down first. That's the wisdom wing level. Now we're more advanced, supposedly, and we begin to do these more radical levels of actually greeting a problem. But we're just not capable of that unless we've done the earlier work. I say this all the time because I think we just really don't get it. Most of the time in our culture, I know it took me a long, long time when I first heard the Lam Rim and I first heard this idea that it's gradual practice, it's incremental according to the capacity of the disciple. I literally didn't understand what they were talking about. Because we give all the teachings equal status as being, oh, that's our spiritual teachings. There's compassion. Oh, that's nice. There's karma. That's nice. But they're different levels. According to where you are at, you apply these different tools. That means you have to know what you're capable of. You have to know where you're at in your spiritual progress. As Pavanka Rinpoche says, in all these radical teachings on the Bodhisattva path, which is and the 8 worldly Dharmas is taught in that framework, you've got to be a suitable vessel. You've got to be a suitable vessel. And that means, for you to go to postgraduate, for you to go to university level math, you need to be a suitable vessel. You've got to have junior school and high school. It's fairly evident, but we're not used to thinking this way. I keep stressing it because, it's so powerful. Then we'll know how to navigate all the teachings because we'll see them as incremental, gradual. So one day, the best you can do is shut your mouth with your boyfriend fighting. The best you can do is shut your mouth when he insults you. That's already such a profound practice, and we mostly don't even know how to accomplish it. We mostly have no control over our mouth. So we haven't even begun to really accomplish junior school. Get my point here? Then if you're capable of shutting your mouth, the next level, which is such radical practice, and this is just high school, is that you actually take responsibility. You realize you must have shouted at him in 42 lives ago, and this is due to karma. So I'm going to accept this responsibility, and I'll leave it there. That's already profound. Then we get to the level here, the next level, where you will be happy that he shouted at you. This sounds demented, This sounds like you're mentally ill. And why are you happy he shouted at you? Because every time something bad happens, this is the logic of karma. You just finished it. You just finished it. That moment of suffering is the fruit of a negative seed. It's very precise. And you learn this in the Four Noble Truths, the mechanics of the way suffering and happiness function. Every millisecond of happiness, every millisecond of a pleasant feeling, just driven, caused by a cool breeze on a hot day, caused by the nice, warmth of a warm room on a cold day. This moment, just this flashing moment of a pleasant feeling, that moment of pleasure is the fruit of a past virtue. So every time you have a virtue, the fruit of a virtue, you just use it up. Every time a seed ripens, that's the end of that fruit, isn't it? So the bodhisattvas would rather have bad things happening. Why? They're not demented. It's because they don't want to waste their merit. So then the practice here in this bodhisattva path, the 8 worldly Dharmas is all part of it, is this in the whole approach of having such courage now, because you so much want to get compassion, because you've got such compassion for sentient beings suffering. You've already done the renunciation thing, but every time, so what's blocking you, that's the point. This is the logic for the bodhisattva. What's blocking us from benefiting sentient beings is our own delusions. So then if you want to be of benefit to sentient beings, if you want to continue the job of radically breaking down the barriers that ego has constructed that separate us from sentient beings, because that's what separates us, you want to break down those barriers. So what is the quickest way to break down the barriers of delusions? Have someone punch you in the nose. Someone get angry with you, have a bad thing happen, have the heater not working on the cool day, have the AC not working on the hot day. This is the point. This is where you really learn to understand the 8 worldly Dharmas. It's logic, but we have to understand that logic. So if I'm not at that level with my boyfriend, I can't even pretend to try and use it. I've at least got to control my mouth, then control my mind, then begin the outrageous radical practice of actually greeting the problem. These are the levels of practice, So there's 8 then. So then it's constant. So in other words, this attachment is so primordial. Yeah, let's go back to junior school, high school again, and look at the evolution of samsara. Buddha's concept of the evolution of samsara. We know perfectly well that Buddha's telling us that as far as his view is concerned, logically, because everything is driven by the law of cause and effect, and if you've got the law of cause and effect, by definition, you cannot have a first cause, although the Christians, for example, have a very detailed teachings on how you can have a first causeless cause, which is God. Buddha would argue with all that. He's not being rude, he's just giving you his findings from his own experience. So as far as he's concerned, our consciousness is beginningless. Well, so is the universe, for that matter. So is matter. As far as the Vajrayana model especially, is very simple. The entire physical world is made of the 4 elements. And then there are minds. And all minds, are inextricably linked to their own set of the 4 elements. It's a very fascinating, detailed description of the way the universe exists. And actually, the Tibetan medical system is based on this one. So matter and mind are literally beginningless. By definition, if it's cause and effect, you cannot find a first cause. Quite literally, just think it through intellectually. Because if you find a first cause, that cause didn't have a cause, and that's an impossibility if you posit the logic of cause and effect. I mean, that's the reasoning. Pretty straightforward intellectually. It's just that it's so shocking to us. It offends an instinct in us that assumes there has to be a first cause. We all believe that. Even when it comes to our own suffering, we go to our therapist, and what do? We dig deep and go into the past looking for a needle in a haystack. What was the thing that happened that caused Rabina to become so peculiar and to choose such crummy boyfriends? We convince there's a thing back there that is the cause. The Buddha would say that's a misconception. It's a wrong question. It's based upon ignorance in the mind that assumes things as being permanent and uncaused, which is a nonsense, he says. So, given that our mind is beginningless, and given that matter is beginningless, this follows that the universes, if minds are beginningless, and that means anger is beginningless, that means attachment is beginningless, that means Buddha nature is beginningless just as well. So if anger and attachment are beginningless, and then if physical matter is also beginningless, and we know perfectly well that this little universe that we think is the center of the universe, called this Earth, this planet, has to have begun at some point. I mean, has to have evolved into this shape. So clearly, if mind and matter are beginningless, then what were we before this planet? We have to ask these questions. I mean, if we take this view, we don't like to think this. It sounds like science fiction for us. So the point is, roughly speaking, this might sound science fiction, but I'll say it anyway. Excuse me. Attachment, Buddha says in the Four Noble Truths, is effectively the main cause of suffering, and that's what we have to learn to understand. And that's where it really unpacks it in the 8 worldly Dharmas, which I'm going to get back to. So this body, this Buddha calls this universe that we exist in more than just the planet. He calls it samsara. And if you're in samsara, it implies you have ego grasping, which is the root delusion. The grasping, the ignorance that believes in things having an intrinsic nature. That's the root delusion. So if you're in samsara, you have that instinct, you have that grasping. So with all the sentient beings who have that are in samsara, and that is then Buddha taking from the Hindu tradition these amazing genius Indians who are the ones who created single-pointed concentration, shamatha, samadhi. They came up with that by discovering the subtle levels of their mind. Their path led them all the way to the subtlest level of samsara, and that was for them liberation. So they quit the grossest level of suffering, which is all the suffering of suffering. They quit the second level of suffering, which is the suffering of change. And then as far as they're concerned, they reached the peak of samsara, but this is where Buddha, and they called it liberation. But the Buddha went as far as he could go in that system, and he said, no, there's still further to go. There are still imprints in the mind. There are still delusions in the mind that keep us in samsara. So that's when he diverged in his own direction. So in his view of samsara, there are different realms of existence. So one packaging of the realms of existence is the formless realm and the form realm. These are beings in the subtlety of meditation, and I mean at different levels. There's 2 different levels, but that's the peak of that's the peak of achievement for them. But Buddha says, no, you've got to go further. They're still in samsara. Then you've got the desire realm, which is the grossest one. And there are 6 suburbs in the desire realm. Desire is another word. It's a synonym for the word attachment, the way Buddha uses the word. So what does it mean? Then all of these realms of existence, and there are 6 suburbs, and they're all the way from on the spectrum of incredible bliss to the most intense suffering. So when we understand suffering and its causes in the Four Noble Truths, we have to understand negative states of mind and positive states of mind, because positive states of mind by definition, and then actions done on the basis of those, they are called virtuous actions, virtuous karma, and they will drop a seed in the mind that will ripen in the future to different levels of happiness. Because happiness by definition for the Buddha, now I've got a feeling we mentioned this, in the Buddhist view, the word feeling, okay, I'm sure we mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again now. When you study the mind in Buddhism, you learn there are negative states, positive states, and neutral. The neutral, I'd rather call the mechanics, because neutral sounds like they're not important. That's not the meaning. The mechanics of our mind are like intention, attention, discrimination, good memory, concentration. There are many of these. And whether you're a murderer or a meditator, you need these to function properly. So we all have these, and and these are developed brilliantly in concentration meditation. So in that category, also, there's one called feeling. Actually, this is crucial to understand if we want to understand attachment. This is crucial because we conflate them. There's one called, we only have 3 kinds of feeling. Buddha does not use this word as we do, as meaning emotion, not like that. We either have pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, or neutral feelings. That's it. Forget the neutral. We have pleasant and unpleasant. Well, pleasant feeling is a synonym for the word happiness. Unpleasant feeling is a synonym for the word suffering. Now, we know happiness and suffering. Pleasant feeling sounds kind of boring, you know, but it's quite technical. It means anytime there's a moment of pleasure. So pleasure, joy, bliss, ecstasy, rapture, mild, pleasant feeling, they're all on a spectrum of degree of pleasant feelings. Or the other word is happiness. This is crucial to understand because we are so addicted to believing that the cake and the boyfriend are the cause of happiness. When we think of happiness, you say, tell me about your happiness, Rabina, and I will describe the cake and the boyfriend, because we conflate those. This is the biggest mistake we make. When we think of suffering, I think of the ugly boyfriend rejecting me, and I think of the cake that made me vomit. So I'll describe the event, the person, the thing, because we are addicted to the external being the cause of happiness. We literally conflate happiness and the event. This is a total mistake. This is really interesting. So for the Buddha, a pleasant feeling is in here in the mind, both through the sensory consciousness and the mental consciousness. It's a state of mind. It's not physical. It is not a cake. It is not a boyfriend. They are the external events. Yes, they trigger those pleasant feelings. And attachment's job, this vampire in us, is to find the objects that we've got a connection with, such that when we do have contact with that object, the cake, the boyfriend, pleasant feelings are triggered. So in the end, all we want is the pleasant feelings. We're not even attached to the boyfriend. We are attached to the joy the contact with the boyfriend brings. We're attached to the pleasure that the cake triggers. You know, we're caught up in the objects. They're divine to us, but we conflate these. It's the pleasant feeling. I mean, if that boyfriend, every time I touched him, I got an electric shock, I would not want to go anywhere near him. This is very clear. So when we understand that every moment of pleasant feeling, what is the main cause? This is so simple for the Buddha. The boyfriend is merely the catalyst. The main cause of that pleasant feeling is a particular virtuous action. To the degree of the pleasant feeling equals the degree of the virtuous action in some 42 lives ago, or 27 lives ago, or last life. Necessarily, when we do the virtuous action, we sow a seed in the mind, and that will ripen in the future in 4 ways. 1, as a type of rebirth. 2, as a tendency to keep doing it. 3, as nice, pleasant experiences in relation to others, and pleasant experiences in relation to the environment. So those pleasant experiences that are triggered by the environment and are triggered by the contact with people and cakes and things, or the way we're seen by others, and this is where the 8 Bodhidharmas comes in, these are the fruit of our virtue. This is technically so clear and simple, but it's a shock to us. We don't even consider such a thing, you know. This is his technical explanation of what happiness is. It's a pleasant feeling, including having contact with things that will trigger pleasant feelings, like pleasant weather, pleasant food. The reason that food gives you pleasure is because of your past virtue, not because the food's so great. That's a condition. We are the cause. This is the Buddha's point. We are the cause of those pleasant feelings. So every time an unpleasant feeling arises, you know, triggered by the boyfriend cheating on me, triggered by the knife stabbing my hand, triggered by the bad weather or whatever it might be, the main cause of those is my negative karma in the past. This is a technical thing. It's not punishment. It's not reward. It's not blame. It's not blame. It's not praise. It's not none of those things. None of that dualistic view at all. It's very technical and very clear for the Buddha. So that's one point, so crucial. So we're in these 6 realms of existence, these 6 suburbs within samsara. So what are the God realm, and there's a couple of those, they're equivalent to what the Catholics call heaven, what the Muslims call paradise. And that's why it seems to me over the centuries, many humans, spiritual beings, whatever you want to call them, have seen and had similar experiences, but they interpret them differently and they interpret the causes differently. That's pretty clear. So the Buddha's explanation of what a God realm is this mind, which is not physical, when it's due to bucket loads of good qualities, good virtue, kindness, love, compassion, generosity, forgiveness, good qualities, being good. The natural result of that is being reborn in this subtle, with a blissful mind and very subtle light body, because, you know, this body is very gross, but subtle light body with very blissful karmic appearances. It's all literally the result of that person's virtue. We're not sent there by God. There's nobody sending us anywhere. There's nobody punishing or rewarding us. It is the fruit of our own actions. And you go along the spectrum. You get to a couple of those, you get to the humans. So clearly, this is not a light body. It's a bag of bones, isn't it? Look at it. But the Buddha would say it's actually a preferable rebirth, because we can consciously choose to get if you don't choose to get a human rebirth and want to practice a spiritual path, then you'll get a human body, which is clearly not nearly as nice as a God realm. But if you want to practice a spiritual path, you should consciously want a human body, because we have access to our intelligence and access to our ability to change, which is what we need as a spiritual practitioner. So then you're further down the spectrum, you've got the three so-called lower realms, and each of them is a predominant result of, or a predominant energy of the three main delusions. So the ignorance, the main function of ignorance, of ego grasping, the root delusion, is incredible narrow-mindedness, very, very fundamentalist, narrow-minded ignorance. We all have that as humans too, and some have it worse than others, but animals have that 1 billion times more strongly. And that what that causes is having zero access to any virtue, zero access to any ability to change their mind. That's the unique characteristic. That's the human characteristic, an ability to change our mind, which is pretty rare even nevertheless as humans. Look at us, stubborn as anything. So the animal realm is one of the intense suffering results. The next one down is a predominance of attachment energy. And this is these disembodied beings. You could argue that their minds are conjoined with the predominance of the air element, you know. Our physical is made of the 4 elements, that's it. And then the suffering of all, the greatest suffering of all, predominance of anger, the result of it, and actions based on anger, that's called the hell realms. And as Lama Yeshe says, they're not some place where the devil is waiting, saying, I'm waiting for Lama, I'm waiting for Lama Yeshe. It's the manifestation of the negative past actions of that suffering sentient being. We are our own creators. Now, this is Buddha's observation. You do what you like with it. I'm just telling you what the texts say. And this is Buddha's. And when you get clairvoyance, you'll see this too. And you can get clairvoyance if you spend a couple of years doing single point of concentration. Maybe a bit more, but you can do it. It's there, all available to us. So these are all the experiences of happiness and suffering. So now this is called the realm of attachment. Now, when we understand the way we get pleasure, check it out. Check it out. We get pleasure through the medium of our 5 senses, don't we? This body is made of the 5 senses. It's what is it? Karmic evolution, personal karmic evolution of attachment. What do you think has caused 5 holes that demands feeding? That's called attachment. So this is the product of attachment. So attachment is not just, I like chocolate cakes. It's the cause of this universe. It's the cause of this planet. And now the animal realms and the hell realms. So all the realms of existence are all in terms of pleasure or pain. So the more pleasure, the more the result is the fruit of virtue. And then the senses get incredible pleasure. And having the mind that wants happiness and doesn't want unhappiness, then the suffering of having bad things happen is like beyond nightmare. So attachment is the cause of all of this. So we better understand it so we can transform it later on, get rid of it. So that's all, you learn that in junior school and high school. So the crucial piece though to remember, and this is where we can really, this informs our ability to work with the eight worldly dharmas, is when we understand that pleasure is a natural state of mind that is a feeling of pleasure, a happiness, a happy feeling. Happiness. It's called happiness. It's referring to the mind. And clearly there are degrees of it. Evidently, there are degrees of that, obviously. And it's clear we all want that one. And it's clear we have feelings that are unpleasant, and there's a degree of those too. And it's clear we do not want those. So attachment's job, this junkie in us, that's a berserk junkie that, like, can only wants the pleasant feelings and goes completely crazy the second an unpleasant feeling arises. So that's attachment and aversion. And we live with an attachment and aversion. So attachment gets all excited and perky and excited when the nice thing triggered is the pleasant object comes and it triggers the pleasant feeling. So we go after it like a vampire because we've got to get it again. So because we want the pleasant feeling again. Because why? Because we don't know how to get pleasant feelings without the object, do we? That's the tragedy of the way we're locked in samsara. We're like a junkie. A junkie cannot get that high until they inject the heroin. You cannot get that nice high until you have that glass of champagne. You will not get such pleasure unless you jump in the bed with the boy or the girl or whatever you jump into bed with. Because we don't know how to trigger pleasant feelings. This is the simplest way to put it, without an object. And that's attachment's job, and it's the result of attachment, and attachment perpetuates it. So that's why we're junkies. So it's not a joke to say we are all junkies, Buddha says. It's a question of degree. That's all. Literally, accurately, that's what it is. You know? So attachment's pretty primordial. It creates the universe, not a joke. And it's the source of all suffering, period. Of course, the root delusion is ignorance, absolutely. But in this realm, created by this body, created by attachment. So it's primordially deep. So don't be surprised it's hard to give it up. Don't be depressed. It's pretty intense to give it up, you know. So we've got to go one step at a time. Given that it's so intense, the very first level of practice, just control the slaves of your attachment, which is your body and speech. Then you begin to get in touch with the attachment in high school. Now when the body starts to pathway and start to go more pervasive and start to want to greet it and welcome the bad things. Why? Because that's the way to give up attachment. Every time you welcome the bad thing, which is when attachment doesn't get what it wants, you just finish that moment of attachment. You just purify. So it's very logical. It's very clear, but you want to understand the technology of it. Don't just hear it as religious teachings, you know, it's too vague. Okay, so let's go back to this framework of the 8 worldly dharmas. So the most pervasive first pair, we've discussed it, but I want to do more because I mean, we have to hear it 1,000 times. Given that every millisecond of the day, and this is the part that seems initially quite depressing because we just think we're a nice person. I mean, I live in this very pleasant house in Santa Fe. Someone offered me their house, right? It's chilly here in the mornings. It's quite a couple of thousand meters up, 3, I think. I can't remember how many meters. Doesn't matter. But it's very chilly in the mornings, and then there's, you know, lots of snow in the winter, like it is in Zurich. So just naturally, because we're all driven by attachment, when it's too cold in here, I put the heater on, and the heat is incredible. It's floor heating. It's like a mirror, the best heating on the planet when your floor is heated, because the whole house just pervades with warmth. There's no noisy heater blowing air on you, or just only heating one part of the room, or a hot thing you might touch and get burned. No, it's just pervasive warmth in the house. And then when it's too cold, when it's hot, I just press the button for the AC, and it's completely silent AC. So it's like a miracle. Now, okay, what's the cause of this? And we all know these things because, you know, you're very fortunate. We're all fortunate having any good thing. What's the cause of it? We don't doubt it's the fruit of our virtue. It's unbelievable that we can get what we want any second. And why? The cause of that is our past virtue. The cause is our past virtue. So we never doubt that. So, but what do we do with it? This is our problem. Because we're born in this world, we have this hubris, this arrogance of attachment that I live in Santa Fe, I live in Zurich, I deserve good things, I better have, you know, how dare a landlord give me anything less than the perfect heating and perfect cooling? Who does he think he is? I deserve the best food. We have this arrogance, we assume we deserve it. You know, this is the arrogance of attachment at the gross level for sensory objects. So then what do? Every time I get the nice warmth, every time I get the nice cool, every time I get the nice food in the, you know, half a dozen supermarkets around here, every time someone gives me something, we take it for granted. Oh, aren't I lucky? Oh, aren't I lucky? You know, oh, aren't I lucky? And then we even think we deserve it. This is where what we're doing is every second, this is the fruit of our virtue, but we misuse it with attachment. Attachment destroys it. Attachment turns it into caca. And we end up with nothing. Not now, maybe soon, but certainly next lives, we end up with nothing because we just, you know, tipped it down the toilet. This is hard to hear because so this doesn't mean you should be fundamentalist and don't turn the heater on. You've got to sit there being miserable all day. No, it's okay. If I'm a yogi like Geshe Lama Kontrog, who lived in the mountains with no food and no clothes and no anything, living in bliss in Vajrayogini's Pure Land, in a hole in the wall in 6 foot of 3 meters of snow in the winter, and you can be blissful, then go for it, baby. But we can start somewhere. We start by, yes, be conscious when I put the heater on, and then I offer it. You delight, you know. It's like, and this is why the analogy of seeds and fruits is so powerful. If you've got a magnificent garden full of vegetables, you know you will never forget that you did the work. You remember all the work. You remember that being up to your knees in weeds. You remember sowing the seeds. You remember all the hard work you did. You remember that. You'll never forget it. So for that reason, you will never take your vegetables for granted. Hear that point. You would never take them for granted. You would never say, oh, aren't I lucky? And then eat up all your veggies and forget to grow new ones. This is the perfect analogy of first understanding karma and second understanding attachment. and understanding virtue. That those veggies are the fruit of your hard work. Well, that warmth and that cooling and my lovely food and this house are the fruit of my virtue. Never forget it. So don't feel guilty about it, but use it. So don't tip it down the toilet. You just don't greedily eat up those veggies, assume, well, I'm so special, I deserve good veggies. And then suddenly, guess what? You'll end up with nothing. You've got to grow more. To be more, so that one fundamental learning, this is karma, if it is the fruit of my virtue, if getting what you want, and what virtue is that? Getting anything you want is the fruit of generosity and of not stealing. These two. As they say in the teachings, as Lama Zopa says, the main cause of getting a human body, that's unbelievable morality, good ethics, in particular of not killing, and not just being a nice person, as he says, that's not enough, but living in the framework of living in vows of not killing. That's the powerful actions that are the cause for us, like a miracle at the time of our past death, for a karmic seed to be triggered, such that we came to our present mummy's human womb. And how come we're living in Zurich, or living in Mexico City, or living in Santa Fe, with food and delicious heating and warmth and cool and lovely friends, and not in a war zone, and not being abused and raped, not having to struggle for 6 hours to get 1 grain of rice? Don't just take it for granted. That's our morality and our generosity. So morality is the cause of the human body, but generosity is the cause of how come you're born where you even get a grain of rice. So when we remember this is karma, junior school, you would never forget. You'd be awake to this every second. So then you wouldn't want to be attached to it, because you just ruin it. So then you'd be grateful for it, not grateful to God or the universe, grateful to your own past hard work. So then you remember this consciously, and like those veggies, you enjoy them, you delight in your hard work, and then you quickly grow more. So what do I do here? I quickly grow more morality, and I continue to be generous, and continue to remember it and offer to the Buddhas, offer to the sentient beings, and be generous. That keeps the fruits coming. That fruit keeps the veggies going. This is just karma, not even the mind yet, So then you get the best of both worlds. Be happy with it, enjoy. But the one of attachment is what destroys it. Because the attachment is this hubris, this arrogance, especially when it comes to getting things. And this is the first pair, or one of the pairs of the 8. We're very attached. We crave to have things, get things. Now, in our world, the materialist world, we are living in mountains of things. There's no question. I remember Lama Yeshe saying, we just don't realize the luxury we live in. When you compare with Tibet, he said, the only place you could find anything beautiful was in the monasteries. He said lay people's life was completely boring. Houses were boring. Furniture was boring. Everything was boring and grey. The deliciousness and wonderful things was in the monasteries, light and lovely and colourful. So, but look at us. We live in the most luxurious. We can get them so easily. So we are completely attached to having things. We mightn't think we're greedy, we're not like hoarders, but we are completely attached to getting things whenever we feel like it. And these days you just click on the computer and in a day it'll come. It's like a miracle. You have to walk over the mountains to get something in Tibet. So, but this is the arrogance of the first, this is the attachment of one of the pairs, constantly, automatically assuming that we must get good things. And then what happens, and that's attachment, it drives it. And see, at this level, attachment is an assumption that and like I say, it sounds a bit surprising to say it's hubris or arrogance, but that's exactly what it is. There's this assumption that I deserve things, This is the assumption of attachment all the way across. I deserve. Is this because it's based upon the sense of an I, and it's very primordial. It's very, very deeply, deeply ingrained. And it's so ordinary that when we can't even get what we want, if they don't have the right thing at the supermarket, sure, we put up with it, maybe go to the second supermarket. But, if it won't be available for 6 months, we have a panic attack. So what arises then? Every time attachment doesn't get what it wants, the millisecond attachment doesn't get the thing it wants, and we're talking about getting nice things here, that's the arising of aversion. And that's, so the instinct of attachment is when the nice thing happens, go, oh, that's nice, and you go towards it. Aversion is, oh, no good, and you go against it. So this is the point about these two. You don't have violent anger attack and scream and shout and hit the supermarket owner because you can't get your right coffee. You kind of get irritated. You get upset. And there's a sense of, how dare that happen? I deserve this good coffee. That's the point about ego and attachment. It's this sense of I deserve. It's hard to hear this. We don't think we're this way. But it's an incredible, what do we say in the West? entitlement. There's a sense of entitlement. So obviously, if you don't get the thing you want, attachment wants, you get upset. You feel offended, you're consulted. How dare they don't have it? How dare this shop doesn't have that food? How dare this happen? That's aversion. And it's rooted in, of course, the ego grasping. But we just take all this for granted. It's normal behavior. We don't question it until it's extreme, you know. So what do you do with that? What's the practice? The second you don't get what attachment wants, you attempt, and it has to start with the thoughts. Well, this is fine. I'm happy with that. I can handle that. This is just okay. I'll manage. But I mean, we know that's a struggle, but that's the practice. That's the second practice starts. That second is when practice starts. And initially, it means you talk to yourself. You give a different interpretation. Aversion is just the arrogant interpretation. How dare that be the way it is? They got no coffee. God damn these people. How dare they? And then you forget about it. But that's just anger. You're increasing the suffering. So instead of that, you talk it through. That's fantastic. I'm happy. I don't mind. I can handle. I can manage it. So then when you practice with the baby things, like when you don't get the right coffee, when the temperature doesn't work, when the car runs out of gas, when the smallest things happen, when the baby things happen, when you drop a cup while you're washing your dishes, when the hubby, farts in the sheets instead of in the toilet, baby events. There's 1,000 events a day that we never pay attention to. This is general attachment, okay? Every time it doesn't get what it wants, if you catch it, that is practice. And then when the hubby leaves you for a younger version, or you break your leg or you get cancer, then you're ready to welcome the tough things. Don't wait for the tough things to come. Practice with the small things. That's the greatest skill we can cultivate. That means practice every day. Don't wait for the dramas to happen, Don't wait for all your money to go. Don't wait for your house to burn down and you remember and you forgot to reinsure it. Don't wait for the extreme ones in terms of getting what you want, getting things, Start with the baby stuff. That's the key to success. That's the key to success. So the addiction to getting things. So the way attachment works here, attachment is always wanting to get that thing. And then the second you don't get the thing, attachment now shifts. It continues, it's aversion, but another way to put it is attachment continues, but now attachment is constantly trying to be free of the unpleasant thing. So the first one is attachment wants the nice thing. And then when you don't get it, it is indeed the aversion that arises, but attachment's still working there as attachment now shifts its object. And now attachment is working, manipulating and controlling to be free of the unpleasant object, to go to the other store, to get your right coffee. You try 7 shops until eventually you get upset, So attachment just shifts its emphasis to be free of the unpleasant thing. So attachment never stops, in other words. It's all there on the time. It's driving everything. But only because we find it so normal, we don't consider this level of subtlety in our psychology. We just we just call it normal, So Buddhism is more subtle, more nuanced, may I suggest. So now then the next lot, another lot, is the most fundamental actually, is simply being attached to having pleasant feelings. In other words, being attached to happiness. We think that's hilarious because we think that's all we're wanting is happiness. So then I'm attached to happiness. You mean I should not want happiness? But we're addicted. If you're addicted to it is one thing. If you're addicted to it, which is what we are, attachment's addiction. So the most primordial, the one that covers everything, is where every second attachment is only wanting pleasant feelings. And the millisecond unpleasant feeling arises, attachment shifts to now finding the method to be free of unpleasant feelings. So attachment never stops. And you use the simplest example. My house is all cozy and warm, it's a couple of degrees out there, whatever. And my house is really toasty. So when I empty my water bowls in the morning, I get up early and it's still dark and I empty my water bowls and I open the door and of course the cold air hits you, doesn't it? And it's only for about 1 minute, half a minute when I whip outside and put my water in the garden. But that second, you see your mind. That second, while you're in the house and it's all warm, you're taking it for granted. But because attachment's getting what it wants, nice, pleasant weather. And suddenly you walk outside and you're hit by the cold. So that second, attachment now is anticipating, getting back into the house as quickly as possible. So you do your job of putting the water in the garden, but you do not want to linger. You wouldn't suddenly walk down the street and talk for an hour to a neighbor with your pajamas on or whatever, freezing cold. All you're thinking of is getting back in the house. So you might be polite when someone says hello to you, but all you're thinking, attachment, all of it's thinking, all what it's thinking is get back in the house into the warmth again. That's how attachment works. And this is why we suffer. This is why we suffer. This is why we suffer. So as you say, someone picks on the street, you don't want to talk to them. Excuse me, I'm busy. I'll see you later, while you're shivering, because all you're wanting to do, everything in you is thinking of the warm house. So then you try and imagine the door locked, and you freak out completely and go mad because your door's locked. Now you've got to go down to the key, go next door, climb in a window, and all you're thinking about is getting back into the house to the warm weather. So attachment is always distressed. It's always unhappy. It's always miserable. And that's why we suffer. This is why we suffer, people. It is not because of the cold weather. It's not because of the boyfriend. It's not because of your house burning down. It's not because of anything. It's attachment and aversion. I mean, Buddha's description, Buddha's analysis is very simple, but it's so shocking we can't hear it. Just we don't believe it, you know, because we're addicted to the other view. Very interesting. This is normal, completely the world. Ants and dogs and monkeys have it, you know. So that's when, if you know, as soon as I think, well, let's say you get pain. Let's say pain. Occasionally, I used to get, oh, Nina remembers. Remember, Nina, when you took me to the hospital? I arrived about 10:30 at night in Zurich a couple of years ago, last year, I think. I used to get these weird arthritic attacks. Chinese doctors call them wandering arthritis. It's something triggers it, and then in one joint in the morning, and I know it's coming, and there's nothing I can do about it. By the night, I'm on the floor in agony like a baby moaning, you know, because it's such intense pain. But I've found from experience, it lasts like 36 hours, maybe, you know. So even that, so when all I got to do is think of that, and then I think of people who live in pain all the time, and I tell you, I'm overwhelmed. I can't even conceive of the agony, because at least that pain, even though it's agonizing, you know, when I arrived in Zurich, when was it, on the plane at 10:30 at night, and poor Jeff and Nina had to take me to the hospital. Swiss hospitals are very nice, quite expensive, but very nice. 700 francs, I think, for a visit, but it was very civilized. The doctors and nurses were extremely nice. So anyway, and the whole time with that pain, Nina will tell you, I was so distressed, I can't tell you. Because every millisecond of my mind was the aversion to the pain was unbelievable. And then the attachment was constantly anticipating, waiting for the finish of the pain. This is how our minds work all the time. And this is why we suffer so stupendously. That's why, you know, using this view, I mean, I think I'm hearing now in medical profession, people are finding different ways to think about pain. And it's based on this, because this is the part that's so shocking to us. This is right back to the beginning, like I said before. When we can understand that attachment is one state of mind. It's in the negative group. It's exaggerating the happiness. It's neurotic. It's deluded. It's arrogant. It's distressed. It's demented. It's a demented state of mind, attachment. This hunger that anticipates, that manipulates, that controls to get what it wants. Then when it gets the cake, then the thing that it wants, which is the pleasant feeling, finally the pleasant feeling comes. So we conflate, like I said, the attachment and the pleasant feeling. Because we know we can't get the pleasant feeling unless attachment tries to find the object. And we know that they're completely so linked, we assume they're the same thing. They're completely separate states of mind. Now, the real learning here is when we assume that anger or aversion and pain are suffering, whether it's a pain in the knee or your boyfriend leaving you or being wrongly accused of murder and you're on death row. Whatever the event in the body or external, we assume, we conflate aversion, anger with the bad thing. So we will say, but of course I'm angry. I've got a terrible headache. Of course I'm upset. Of course I have aversion. Of course I'm angry. My father, my brother, my boyfriend just left me. Of course I'm angry. I'm on death row and I shouldn't be. We assume they're the same thing. This is why we suffer so badly when suffering happens. This is the point, because we're wrongly interpreting it. So this is Buddha's general point, but his specific practice in transforming problems. When the bad thing does happen, we can literally learn to see it differently and to actually eventually get happy feelings. In the beginning, you don't get happy feelings. You have to be intellectual about it. You have to tell yourself it's a good thing and you don't feel it. But the bodhisattvas actually experience blissful feelings when they have bad things happen. It's too crazy for our minds to even imagine that. But this is a possibility, So this is where, even if we could learn to realize the main reason we suffer is not because of the headache. The main reason we suffer is not because I'm locked out in the cold. It's hard to hear this because the senses are so powerful. The senses are so powerful and attachment is so powerful. It's hard to even get past all that, to do the analysis, you know. But this is the essence of Buddha's teachings, and this is the particular practice when it comes to the bad things, where you actively take the bad thing and you literally find the opportunity to think it differently. First, you use karma and you use giving up attachment, and then even when you have bodhicitta or emptiness, whichever one you're capable of, they are the methods you use to interpret that headache, that event, that boyfriend harming you, that being sent to death row when you're an innocent victim. And I've got friends on prison who do this. You know, it's not mystical. It's just the hardest thing we'll ever do. This is the essence of practice in Buddhism, and it's the radical level of it at the level of the 8 worldly dharmas, you know. So any questions? It's nearly an hour we've had. Any questions? What's happened to my drink? There we go. Any questions? Were there any questions in the box, Nina, or whoever? Who's got them?
Rubina, I got a question.
Who is asking the question?
Nancy.
Nancy. Hi, Nancy.
Hi.
Hello, darling. Talk to me, sweetheart.
When you talked about good karma from the past, I thought
Yes.
about my eating habits. For example, when I eat breakfast or dinner or lunch, I always just eat something and work. And so I don't appreciate the food really. I take it for granted, as you say it. Is there a method that you say we should do, that we go on with the good karma?
You think about it. Yeah, two things. Okay, use the analogy, Nancy. Use the analogy of your garden, your vegetable garden. You know, if you look outside in your backyard and you've got these veggies growing in the garden, in the simplest, ordinary, I'm talking about ordinary worldly level now, you would never take those vegetables for granted, would you? Because you realize every time you pick one cauliflower, you knew how long it took to grow. You know how much work you did to get it. You wouldn't want to waste it. Would you not think that's reasonable?
Yeah.
Well, this is the view of karma. So your food is a good analogy because, but I mean, whether it's you having a nice house, whether it's you having the cool weather in the cooling in the hot day, or the warm heater on the cold day, or lovely clothes, or having good health, or having a nice partner, or whatever it might be, having that pleasant cushion behind you that I can see on your nice couch.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the lunch, but everything that you have that you consider good, every single one of them, if you added it up, if you added up money, and you counted how much money it cost you, and you know you have a very small budget, in the same way you wouldn't waste it. But karma is like that. Every second of anything that goes well in your life, every moment something goes nicely, that is literally the fruit of one of your virtue, and each one, so there must be thousands of virtuous karmic seeds of ours ripening every single day as long as nice things happen. So it's a pretty dynamic view. So logically, if you take that view seriously, and it might take time for us, then the view is you don't take it for granted. You remember your hard work. Wow, this is amazing. I rejoice that I've done that hard work, and I rejoice in having this now. So what do you do with it? You offer it. You don't just greedily eat it all up. So that's why we have I don't know if you're a Buddhist or not, but if you have all these practices, we offer our food. We think if we could, we would offer it to others. Just even a minute of offering your food to others. Don't think that's meaningless. It's a profound practice, Nancy. Because the thought of offering is exactly the cause of continuing to receive. So you're stopping in your tracks and you're remembering karma, you're remembering your good fortune, you remember your hard work, and then you think of offering it, and if you could, you would offer even more of it. This is how you keep it all going, darling. It's just how you think. It's just how you think. It's your thinking. Do you understand?
Thank you. Yeah.
Good, Nancy. Thank you. So important. Who else? Hello, Rubina. Anais. Okay, go on. I don't really understand. What, darling? Speak out that question, please. Anais.
Yes, hello.
Hello, darling. What don't you understand? Which piece?
I mean, I don't understand. How can't we be really sad if somebody is leaving us?
What, darling?
My French is very bad. Sorry.
My English. I have no French. I'm so sorry. So, darling, I hear your point. So just say it again. Say it again clearly. I want to hear your point. Or do you want to say it to somebody who can say it to you in English? It's up to you. I want to understand you. It's important you say it clearly. Do you want somebody else to say it for you in English? Why would you say
okay. It's okay.
Okay,
It's okay.
Okay.
It's my emotion. Sorry. I mean, I don't understand how it is possible to not be
I
desperate.
understand. Of course. I understand, darling. That's the point. Of course, it's shocking. That's exactly my point. Because we take it. Do you understand when I say we take it for granted? Do you understand that, friend? Because you see, let's analyze it, okay? Let's analyze that. Let's just say we all are born in this world, and we have the materialist philosophical view, which is the view we're brought up with, that our mother made us. Do you accept that? Our mother made us, and then life is kind of just good luck. And then bad luck happens and good luck happens. And we don't have much analysis of why. We certainly don't have the view that your consciousness is not physical. We don't have the view that your consciousness goes back and back and back and back to other lives, do we? We don't have that view. So if we take the view that your mother made you, that you didn't ask to get born, that life is good luck and bad luck, well, then of course you will get upset when your boyfriend leaves you. But the Buddha's analysis is giving a reason why we get upset. Is because your attachment didn't get what it wanted. And then when your attachment doesn't get what it wants, anger arises, panic, fear, despair, depression. Look at the world. So all I'm giving you is a Buddhist analysis of why we feel the way we feel. So it's up to you whether you like the Buddha's analysis. That's your choice. All I can do is tell you the Buddhist analysis and tell you that Buddha is telling us that we can learn to change our mind. And eventually, as we really progress, we can learn to be happy in our mind, no matter what happens. Are you hearing the words?
Yes, I'm hearing, but
it's shocking, right? It's shocking.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. We all feel the same way. So it's up to It's up to us whether we take Buddha's views and decide to practice it or not. But I can tell you, that's why I always like to use examples of my friends in prison. You know, prison in America anyway, they're garbage dumps. They're horrible. They're not nice places. You're treated like an animal. You have these so many people have many years in prison, especially, you know, in some states where they just very intensive, 20 years, 30 years, for just hardly anything. I mean, unbelievable. So then many of my friends in prison, including on death row, they completely changed their minds, and there they are living in these garbage dumps, seen like animals, treated like animals, hated by people, hated by society, but because they're doing exactly every word I'm talking about, using the Buddhist techniques, they have learned to become happy human beings. There's the proof, you know, it's possible. Okay. So don't wait till you're sent to prison accused of murder when you didn't do it. Start practicing this view of every time something bad happens, you learn to accept it and change your mind. It's not easy though, but it's not, you've got to see it in the big picture of all of Buddhist practice. You know, we've got to know what we're capable of. So of course it's a huge point, but it's logical. It's not meant to be religious. It's logical, because the Buddha's point is, the Buddha's simple point, the fundamental point the Buddha's making that's underneath all of this philosophy is that we can learn to be in control of our own happiness, not rely upon the food, the house, the boyfriend. That's the point. That's all he's saying. And attachment is the junkie in us that is convinced that the only way I can be happy is getting the boyfriend, getting the food, getting the nice weather and everything else. And we know we can't guarantee that we will get everything we want. Have you discovered that in your life?
Yes.
There you go. Okay. So it's up to us, honey. It's up to, Buddha's saying it's up to us whether we want to be happy or not. It's up to us because we can learn to be happy. That's the point I'm making. Thank you very much. Good.
Thank you very much.
We all agree. It's just hard.
Okay.
What else, people?
Wendy's Nest.
Okay, Wendy. Hi, honey. Wendy's in Timbuktu. Hi, darling. Talk to me.
So my stepmother has terrible arthritis. She's in pain.
Oh, poor darling. God.
So your story made me think of her.
Okay.
And yet she's a very virtuous person, but I often feel that the virtue comes from a kind of martyring. And I actually sometimes feel like the arthritis itself is from holding things in. right? That she martyrs herself all the time and doesn't allow herself.
So why don't you explain a little bit, an example of, just so we all understand what you're meaning. Tell me an example of what you're saying.
So if I say to her, how are you? How are you doing? She goes, I'm fine. I'm good. And my daughter needed to get her wisdom teeth out. And she thought to take her to get her wisdom teeth out, but she can barely walk. And it was a confusion in her mind, right? Like, it's almost like she tortures herself.
But if she's, I mean, well, I just want to argue, I want to debate with you. You know the woman, I don't. But if she says I mean, why can't you see it as being virtuous? Would you rather have her cry and complain and moan
No, but here's the thing, she blows up too,
What?
right?
What,
She
darling?
blows up in rage at my father.
I mean, she's got anger. That means she's got anger. Join the universe. It means she's got anger. Yep, absolutely. I understand that.
And there's a
But what do you,
repression,
but okay, I hear what you're saying, but maybe come to a conclusion and tell me, if it were you, forget about her, if this were you, what do you think the problem is and what do you think the solution is?
I think she needs to be kinder to herself.
And how would that look?
Just
How would she act differently?
what you say about the gradual path to enlightenment, right? Like, to admit where she is and that she doesn't have this enforced, like, she's a very good Catholic, right? Like a practicing Catholic. And there's
But I do hear you, Wendy, but I've got a feeling I'd rather rejoice. I'd rather rejoice in her good qualities. I mean, she's not a saint. She obviously has got still attachment and anger, but it sounds to me, if she even answers when you say, how are you? Do you also know other people who, if you ask them how they are, 1 hour later, they're still moaning about themselves? Would you also accept that? Now, is that that's not an alternative you'd prefer, is it? Then
No,
okay, so maybe, I mean, I hear you, I really do hear you, but maybe on the face of it, you rejoice that she is attempting to be virtuous, but at the same time, she's got attachment and then she gets angry, yeah, like everybody, and she's got her faith and she goes to church and she probably prays to God to try and work with her. I mean, maybe she is working in her own way. I mean, I think if she were not conscious at all and just dumping it on everybody and being so piteous and moaning, that'd be much worse in my opinion. But it seems to me, my own observation, excuse me, is that she's practicing in her way. She's doing her best. She attempts, she might be a martyr. That's okay. If you've got attachment, Wendy, you're a martyr. We're all the same, but maybe within where she's at, she is practicing. I don't know. Maybe that's a possibility. I mean, kind to herself, but how does that look? What would you want her to do? Don't be all theoretical. She's a Catholic. Don't be a Buddhist. What would you like her to do?
If I say to her, how are you? That she actually has some human connection and articulates where she's at so she can get
No, I disagree completely, Wendy. It's none of her, it's excellent, and that's called kindness to you. Let her say that. I mean, the other person, you're talking about human kindness and they start moaning about their horrible arthritis, then you get fed up with her. Oh, she always complains about her arthritis. So, I mean, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
Isn't there a middle way? Isn't there a middle way?
Because why should she tell you that her terrible arthritis? But that's her personal business. Well, I think it's a really excellent practice not to dump your own misery on somebody else. If you're her doctor, then that's different, but you're not her doctor. I mean, you know, I mean, it's like, I think it's very kind to say I'm fine. I don't know. I think that's a good quality. I know what you're saying. Of course, she's got attachment and aversion there too. But I mean, of course, she's living in denial. She wants to, but in the end, you know, I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe another way to put it is maybe you just accept that that's the way she is and love her for who she is. I mean, that's another point. Because in one sense, you're talking about her here, but really we're talking about Wendy and her view of her mother-in-law.
It's true. I would like her to be freer and not feel so, I don't know, there's an oppression that I feel in her that I wish that she was more, she got more warmth. That's all. It's
okay.
Just,
well, so what you're saying is you feel she's distant. You feel she's okay. Then that's her. So then okay. So we're talking two things. One is we're talking about her, but also we're also talking about you here, aren't we? So is there anything for you to look at in your? I mean, I'm not trying to be a lecturer, but is there something in your mind you learn? I mean, this is the point. This is the point where if there's something you can do to help her, amazing. But if not, why not just love her for who she is? And I mean, there's two things here. One is analyzing her problem, but the other one is your response to it. I mean, if you don't think there's any problem with your response to it, wanting her to be something she's not, I don't know, maybe you just love her for who she is. I mean, do you talk about her behind her back and say these words to your husband about her, or whoever it is she's the mother of?
My sister and I talk about it because she blows up at my father and tries to control him, and so we get concerned about my father.
I know, but this is what happens in families, isn't it, though?
We're concerned about her and her pain, and it's caused a big rift in her with her daughter. Anyway, but
so it's a classic example of families. There she is. She's got attachment and aversion. She's got arthritis, which is an incredible pain. Yes, I mean, that's partly past karma, but also can be exacerbated by the way our mind is now. That's for sure. So this is the classic one. If I were talking here, and we are talking, let's take it from your point of view as being let's take it now from your point of view as a practice for you. You're not asking me about you, you're asking me about her. But in the end, this is who she is. You accept that? And you can't sit down and give her lectures, can you? She won't listen, would she? So then I would say, this is where it comes to practice. I would suggest between you and your sister, you stop talking about her. I think that's a very profound practice. Accept that this is who she is. And that's her husband, your father, so her father, right? Your father, right?
Yes.
Your father. So that's his trip. He's colluding in her. He's accepting this is who she is. That's his problem. That's his life. And this, I'd say, is one of the big problems in families. We all stick our noses in thinking we're being kind. Because you're trying to be kinder. You're wanting her to be kinder because you're really wanting your father to be happier. And then we all get involved and all kind of caught up in misery. But this is when it comes down to this brutal thing, as if you can do something to change it, please do it. If not, don't. So one of the powerful practices would be to both of you, don't talk about her. Just don't talk about them. Don't talk about them. Accept them for who they are. From your point of view, this is a powerful practice. And this is for everybody's family. This is everybody in families. So much of our distress is there's always going to be somebody who's not right. The sister, the mother, the auntie, the uncle, the next door neighbor. This is forever eternity. This is the way life is. So some of the time, just stopping talking about it and loving her for who she is.
Okay.
I can't stress that enough. I'll tell you something interesting. In my family, I mean, we're not saints, and all my, the seven siblings, very dynamic, very bossy, all like me, very close in age. But over the years, we used to fight. Naturally, as families, we'd fight. You go home for Christmas, and we'd fight. Then we'd love each other afterwards, but always talking behind backs. So I'd say to Polly, oh, Janet did this, and then I'd say to Julie, Mary did that. And then there's 7 of us, so it's quite dynamic, and we're all close. So there's this endless talking behind backs, which is very normal. We all mean well. But in this last something years, I'd say more than 20, we've got this unconscious, this unspoken agreement. We do not ever talk about things with each other that cause fights. And there's so much we have in common when we realize that. And the second one is we do not say bad things, even in the thing of poor Polly, why doesn't she do this? Poor Janet, why doesn't she do that? We might touch upon it and then we'll change the subject and we'll leave it alone. And I cannot tell you the harmony. Because every one of us is human. Everyone is completely ridiculous and neurotic with our own absurd nonsense. But we've really made this effort, and it's quite astonishing to see the difference. And it's not phony, it's genuine. And we accept the problems. We accept the garbage. We accept, like one of my siblings, it doesn't matter who, a person I know is really mean with money, doesn't even share it with his wife. Doesn't matter who it is. We can endlessly talk about that, but we just leave it there. And it's something it's not being Pollyanna. It's something, it really brings harmony. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, thank you.
Good talking. Thank you, Wendy, very much. Who else, people? It's a big practice, especially families, because we love to talk, even meaning well, Who else? Who else is there?
We have a question here, Laksam.
Good. Go. Who is it?
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Let's see.
Hello there.
Hello. I just have the following question. Sometimes I could observe quite rich people who behave not in the best way, like specifically.
That's right.
For example, like arrogance or greediness or egoism.
That's right.
So according to a karma law, they should have done something extremely good to be. That's right. To accumulate this richness. So
that's right.
A confusion how it could happen that good thing not realized in
I understand your question. What is your name? I forget your name. What is your name?
Arseni.
What is it? Arseni.
Yeah, that's correct.
Asini, good. Thank you, Asini. This is junior school, okay? And we'll go in, we'll describe. The crucial point here, Asini, is to understand that there are, in our life, within this life now, there are 4 separate ways that our past karma ripens. Okay, 4. The first one, Asini, for that rich person, the first one, and it's one track of karma. In our mind, we have billions of karmic seeds, all from different times and different environments and different situations. So one way those seeds ripen, and for that person you're describing, the rich man, let's say, he got a human body. So that's the fruit of incredible virtue in the past, of being moral, of not killing. But he's got millions of karmic seeds, and one of those karmic seeds ripened to get a human body. Well, so did Hitler. He got a human body. Do you understand my point? So did Mother Teresa. So there's 3 different humans. One human, you know, they all got that human life from one particular set of karma, and that in this case for them is not killing. Now, the next way karma ripens in each of those people is in their mind itself. So obviously Hitler, if we look at his behavior, we can deduce that he had quite a few negative tendencies. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
It's clear. So the same with your guy you're talking about. He's got a negative tendency of being arrogant. He's got this hubris of thinking he's so special, probably because he thinks he's rich. He's rude. He's arrogant. He's probably very not generous. So that's his tendencies in his mind. That's a separate set of karma from another set of different karmic seeds. Now, the third one is your experiences. Your experiences, how you're seen by others, what happens to you. So there's this guy, he's now got, as a result of generosity in past lives, he now gets money. He now has a beautiful house. Maybe he has a good reputation. That's another set of karma. There are 3 different sets of karma, separate. They're not related. So in other words, you can be born in this life with really good qualities in your mind, humble, kind, and generous, but you can have terrible experiences with other people stealing from you, harming you, and lying to you. Are you understanding my point? This is a huge point, and when we can all realize this, because we all assume that and then the things that happen to me, we see a relationship. There's not really much relationship. How you're seen by others is one thing, and how you are in yourself is another. They're from different karmic seeds. Are you understanding that? Mm-hmm. Can you hear that? So I always joke about Mr. Trump. Everybody says Mr. Trump lies. Maybe he lies, who knows? But all I know is the Washington Post is tracking his lies the last 4 years, I mean, up to 60,000 lies, however many lies it is. But the point is, we can see some people absolutely do not believe a single word that Mr. Trump says. Other people, the ones who love him, believe every single word he says. Have you noticed that with the politicians? So we have to decide, what is the difference? For Mr. Trump, with the people who don't believe him, that's from lying literally to us in the past. Karma is very personal. And then the other people, that's also for Mr. Trump from telling the truth in the past, such that now, even if he's lying, people believe him. So the karma is called, this first karma is in the mind, and that's called your tendencies, similar to the cause. They're a bunch of habits. We come into this life with our own habits. And then the other karma is called experiences similar to the cause. And this is how you are seen and treated by others. They're separate tracks of karma. Do you understand?
And there are no restriction, you can potentially have any, and there are no restrictions, you can.
What do you mean by restriction?
There can be any combination of these 3 karmas.
Well, have a look at the world. There's the evidence. Look at the world. Some people, in prison are the nicest people I've ever met and never do anything wrong, but they've been wrongly accused. That's due to being part negative karma from the past. Some people are psychopaths and they're treated as saints. We can see it in the world. Look at it. I mean, even if you do use Hitler as an example, millions of people absolutely adored that man, loved him. He was like God. And there he was, this monster. You understand? So we can see the examples extreme. One is who you are here, and then the other is, how you're seen by others. So then if we can understand this, then we can understand why things happen to us, I mean, you know very well, you might tell a lie one time, but people believe you. Another time you tell the truth and someone doesn't believe you. They're two separate things. I mean, they've got a relationship to each other, obviously, but the main cause of how you're seen by others, whether people like you, steal from you, rape you, love you, give you things, this is from past actions. You understand?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you so much. Somebody else, any questions? So let's continue with the 8 worldly dharmas then. This is our last day, or we have more days?
We have one more day. Then
Good, okay. Good. So, okay, so just to finish the 4 pairs again, and then we'll talk more about how we can, like we're talking, how we can practice these every single day. Then we'll also talk about emptiness, because that's a powerful way to really help us practice giving up the 8 worldly dharmas. It's a major one, you know, both compassion and this one, very powerful. So the other one is the one that are really heavy, it seems to me, is we are, you know, the deepest one is this one of reputation. We did talk about it, but I think this one, it seems to be continuously in our mind. This one of, we are always hoping, trying to get other people to like us. We cannot stand it if people don't like us. If we have I mean, that's what they mean by reputation. I mean, every second of the day, since we're born, this attachment is very deep. I think it's the closest attachment to the ego grasping, I think. I mean, that's just my feeling. Every second, even as a tiny child, you know, we're born with our own attachment. Of course, we don't think that in our culture. We think we're made by our parents and we come all fresh into this life, and then we get programmed by our parents, you know. But if you've got this very strong attachment, this very strong sense of dissatisfaction, which is the energy of attachment, and then you're always, you know, there's a feeling, even as a tiny baby, you're always dissatisfied. That's why you get angry. It's why you cry all the time. It's, you know, we just think it's not like that, but you're born with these tendencies. And so, and you're always hungry for mummy to like you, to give you what you want, to get what you want, and for mummy to like you. I mean, we all think this is normal. It is normal. There's a virtuous approach to this, and there's a deluded one. And it's very hard to see it as little children and as we get older. In other words, it's an assumption. This attachment is an assumption that I'm not valuable in myself. So I got to have other people tell me I'm valuable. That means we have to have other people to like us. Look at children at school who are so distressed because they're not liked by somebody. We want to kill ourselves practically. This is attachment to being seen. We are craving other people to like us, because if other people like us, that tells me, wow, I must be a good person. But the Buddha says, you are already a good person. You are who you are, but we need other people to tell us. This is how mentally ill we are. It's so normal. We just think it's normal in our world. But this is the way we suffer terribly. Because as soon as one person doesn't like us, even a stranger in the street can look ugly at us. We are so distressed because we're not saying, we say we take it personally. Because we're so injured, we think, how dare that person say I'm not a nice person, you know? I mean, we're really, in other words, with this attachment, it's so deep, this attachment, this assumption that I'm nothing until someone else tells me I'm something. That's how deep it is. And this is the way we suffer so badly. Why we're lonely. Why nobody loves me. I'm nothing. I'm nobody. I've got no one to talk to. I've got no one to love. No one loves me. That's this attachment. And it makes us completely miserable, completely isolated. And in other words, according to how people see us is how we define ourselves. I mean, this is insane. You look at, even in the world, how we think about success. Success at something means that other people tell you you did a good job. But if nobody tells us we did a good job, we think we're a failure. I mean, this is insane. This is completely insane. But this is how deep this attachment is. And in our world, we consider it completely normal and necessary. Let's look at this one in our relationships. We can see this with other people. No matter how much their boyfriend tells them that he loves her, never enough. No matter how much people praise her, never enough. Always miserable, always feeling I'm nothing, always feeling I'm nobody, always feeling I don't have enough, always feeling I haven't achieved enough. It's what we call low self-esteem. It's what we call self-loathing. It is actually a function of attachment. Never satisfied. You know. It's very suffering. Look at the way we suffer. It's incredible. But the particular one of people, that's this one, of people not liking us, craving to be seen and heard by others, craving to have a good reputation, craving for people to like us. It's so normal for us, it's quite shocking to think it's a problem, you know. This is this attachment. So in our mind all the time, at a very deep level, when all the time there's this dialogue in our mind, we're always talking to somebody, telling something to somebody. If you've got your husband at home, you know, and you just had a big drama at work, on the way home in the car, all you're doing is telling your husband about this drama. In other words, it's not enough for us just to have the experience of a terrible thing that happened at work. We have to tell somebody. We have to have somebody to hear it and then to tell us it's okay. We don't have, it's like with attachment, this attachment, we have no courage, we have no self-esteem, we have no self-respect. We have to tell other people, we have to talk to other people, we have to give it to somebody else. Of course, we don't criticize ourselves, but we have to recognize the problem. That's why we all need a good therapist. That's why we have to find someone to talk to who can help us understand what we think. But this is our worst suffering. Never stops in the mind, never stops in our head, never stops. Upset if people say the wrong thing about us, thinking about what they said, thinking about if only I'd said that, how dare they do that, how dare they do that. In other words, every single thing, it's almost like the entire world out there, we take it all completely personally. It's a way of saying it. Even you're driving on the freeway, or the autobahn, or whatever you call it there, and a car behind you toots his horn. We freak out, and it's a stranger. We can't even see his face, but we are so upset because a stranger indicated that he didn't like us. We panic completely. We don't even know him. We'll never see him ever in our life. That's how fragile we are. That's how deep this attachment is. We have to be approved of. We need approval desperately. We are junkies for it, because what it means is that we don't think we are worthy until we get somebody to praise us or to think we have a good reputation. This is the last two parts, the same, hearing praise or having a good reputation. These are primordial. And then look what happens, just a car tooting his horn. We can't stand it. The pain is unbearable. We are offended. We're like wounded in the heart, you know. This is attachment. All of it's attachment. And as I said, that's natural. It's normal. When your boyfriend is, it's natural. Of course it's natural, honey. But Buddha's got a subtle view of the mind, and he's giving us clues to what we can do to change our minds, to become liberated from misery, to become happy, to become powerful, to become self-confident, to learn to know that everything I am is in here already. And then when you are content in yourself, it's not as if you then live in isolation and don't care about everybody. No, your relationships now are really healthy. They're based on love and compassion and self-respect. But if you're on your own in your house, you're quite content. That's why people are going crazy now, having to be in their house all day, going mad, because we don't know what to do. We crave to have other people in front of us reinforcing us, you know. The good side of it is it's called communication. It's called love. It's called compassion, but it's not coming. That's not attachment, but we can't tell the difference. We can't tell the difference. And that's what we have to learn to do. So when you are content in yourself, when you give up this attachment and become fulfilled in yourself, you become content with who you are, then everybody loves you. You won't be able to get them off you. They'll love being around you because you're such a happy, friendly person. And that's where, of course, you can see, like with Wendy, she's right. Of course, she's right. This person is miserable, doing their best, so it's okay. That's how we are, you know. So this is really just the primordial way attachment works every day. And the other way, because of this craving to be seen as a good person, because of this craving to be seen in a good light, because of this craving for people to smile at me and tell me I'm okay, then this is what drives much of our behavior, and we become completely crazy. So we become very inauthentic. We never say the right thing. We don't have any courage to stand up for what's right because we're always afraid. We call it, oh, I'm afraid of upsetting her. I might upset her. Rubbish. You're afraid that she might not like you, but we act like it's virtue, you know. So when you really have learned to give this one up, you become much more courageous, much more brave. And then you even begin to have the courage to make the tough decisions. Like you're going to leave that husband because you know it's the right thing. Normally what keeps most people in relationships, even if the relationships are garbage, I'm not being horrible, is because they're afraid of upsetting things. They afraid of what the husband will think, afraid of what their mother would think, afraid of what their sister would think, afraid of what the world will think, afraid of what the next door neighbors will think. So we live in fear of what we call upsetting people, because basically we don't like them. We don't want them to dislike us because we want to be seen as a good girl. So we end up becoming paralyzed, really making no proper decisions in our lives, not being authentic at all. And then we live in this terrible misery, afraid to make decisions, afraid to change that job, afraid to change the relationship, afraid to do something extreme, you know, because we are scared of what people think of us. That's what keeps most people paralyzed. You know, I might have mentioned this, but I remember hearing years ago one nurse somewhere. She wrote a book. She worked with the dying, and she wrote a book called she wrote a book called The 5 Greatest Regrets of the Dying. And the greatest regret was I didn't follow my heart. I didn't do what I really knew I wanted. I did what I thought was expected of me. That's the one I'm talking about. Most people live like this. I remember hearing Oprah, you know, that American Oprah. She said the commonest thing she hears women say in a relationship that's no good, oh, it's better than nothing. He's better than nothing, you know. This is the fear. Most of us live in fear of making the tough decisions because we don't even, and this is where the whole business, they call it all the time, we hear the lamas talk about motivation. And this is exactly what we're talking about now. Most of the time, the motivation that determines the decisions we make is these 8 worldly dharmas. Fear of not getting the nice thing, fear of hearing criticism, fear of not having a good reputation, fear of bad things happening. We live in fear. We live in fear, paralyzed, and wonder why we're miserable, you know. So this takes time to see our mind, to unpack and unravel all this chaos in here, to have this courage. And that means, you know, especially if you're one of the good girls. What I mean by good girl, I mean sarcastic. A person always tries to say, you know, again, maybe it's Wendy's example, perhaps not, whatever, but it's a very common, you know, there are sort of like I always think of my family. I always joke, one of my sisters and me, we joke about it because I was always the angry one and I would be the troublemaker. You know, I didn't care what people thought. It's not a good thing. But, you know, this other sister, she spent her life trying to make sure everything was under control. She made sure that daddy didn't go there because if he did, he'd fight with mummy. And he'd made sure Rabina wasn't here because then if she did this, she'd do that. So she was all the time spending all her life trying to be a good girl. She is a good girl, trying to help everybody, but she couldn't, because she couldn't stand it when things went wrong, because she couldn't stand it, but it looked like so virtuous. In the end, she was completely neurotic about it, you know, afraid of upsetting things. That's not virtue. That's just attachment, you know, to getting everything to be lovely. But it's hard to see the difference. It looks like you're being kind. And many of us are like that. So in a relationship, we'll suffocate what we feel. We're too scared to say anything, but we act as if we're doing it for the other person's sake. It's just not true. It's because we're terrified of upsetting people because we don't want them to dislike us, because we don't like it if they shout. So our motives are not clear. We're not clear. So this takes time to see our mind clearly, and then to have the courage to act according to a motivation that isn't attachment, that isn't anger, that isn't jealousy, that isn't resentment, but that is virtue. And that might mean to make the tough choice. You know, it might be the right thing to leave that husband and 5 children. That's too shocking for our world, but it might be the right thing. And that's where you have to have courage to know and that's why every day, often we don't know what choice to make. We don't know, should I leave the job? Should I leave the husband? Should I go there? Should I marry that guy? Should I go to India? Whatever. It's so hard to make a decision. And the reason we find it hard to make a decision, because our motivation isn't clear. Our motivation isn't clear. We're not clear for the basis of a decision. So then the way to be clear, work on your mind, try to abide by the laws of karma, work on your mind, do your practice every day, do your purification, try to practice compassion, all these things we're talking about. But the powerful one is this. This is an analogy I like to use, and I find it very beneficial. Our life is like we're walking on a road, and our life is our road. It's our road. Each of us has got our own road. And of course, we don't know where to go. We don't know where the right turn off is. Should we go, where are we going? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? We don't know what's best. We don't know whether I should turn right or should turn left or keep walking or whatever. So the thing is, we don't know. But the point is, if we have an understanding of karma, that we've sowed all these thousands of seeds in the past. Well, how we act now and what we think now is what will nourish whichever seeds will be the ones. So if you follow attachment and follow anger and follow jealousy, you're just going to keep nourishing all the negative seeds, and garbage will happen and you'll get completely lost. So all we can do is what? You wake up in the morning and you're not sure what to do. Let's say you're not sure to leave that husband. You're not sure to leave that job. You're not sure if you'd marry that guy. Whatever the decision is, it doesn't matter. Should I become a nun? Should I go away for a 5-year retreat? Whatever it might be. And we don't know what's most beneficial. Well, we don't know. We're not that clear yet. So what do? In other words, you don't know whether you should turn right or turn left in 5 kilometers or 1,000 kilometers. We just don't know. So you haven't got a map, So what do? Well, you can't stand still. You can't go back. You can't just choose any road because it looks cute. That's following attachment. All you can do is live the life today that's right in front of you. You've got that husband and those 5 children. You might have all these agonizing choices you want to make, but you can't decide which is the best. So what do? You have to you have this aspiration. You have this thought, and every thought you sow a karmic seed. Every thought counts. As Lama Zopa says, everything exists on the tip of the wish, the thought. So what do? You live your life today exactly as you see it. You get up in the morning, you do your practice, you get the breakfast, you say goodbye to your husband, you say hello to the kids, you put their clothes on, whatever it is. And in your heart, in your mind, you're thinking, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's most beneficial, but may I do what's most beneficial. May I make the right choice. May I do the right thing. May I make the right choice. And that is not just wishful thinking, that's sowing a powerful seed. And what that does is nourish the karmic seeds you've already planted in the past. And then that will cause those things to ripen. And one day you'll go, oh, there's the turn off. And you will make that choice, even if it's a tough one. You'll make the tough choice. If the right thing is to leave your husband and your 5 children, you will do it. And it will be for the right reason. Even if everybody criticizes you, it won't matter, because you know it's the right decision. You know it's the right turn off. Then you will always go in the right direction and you'll never make a wrong. I mean, it's not easy, but it's so powerful, I tell you. So the aspiration is, may I do what's most beneficial? Not, oh, I wonder what is most beneficial. You don't know yet. Don't chew it like a dog with a bone. May I make the right decision? And then you happily keep living your life. You say good morning to your husband, you take care of your children, and next day you get up and you just keep moving. You just keep moving. You just keep moving. You just keep moving. There's a saying in English, I love it. You pave the way. If you're making a pavement, and if you're always looking to the pavement steps 40 steps ahead, you'll fall over here. You've got to make this pavement perfect. You live this today the best you can. And remembering impermanence, you could die today. So always, may I do what's most beneficial. And then as His Holiness the Dalai Lama always says, if you can aim to do what is most beneficial, which is long-term, long-term is the best, then you'll always make the right choice, even if it looks difficult, and you will make the right choice, and you'll make the tough choice if it's the right one. So we've got to learn to know our mind, become confident, become clear. And that means you don't follow attachment, you don't follow fears, you don't follow what other people think. You don't follow anger or aggression or fear or drama or self-hate or all the other rubbish that motivates so much of what we do, which is why we go crazy, And we'll go one step at a time, I tell you. Everything exists on the tip of the wish. The thought is always the first step. So may I do what is most beneficial. May I recognize what to do when the time comes. So you learn to be patient, you learn to be humble, you live your life today, not speculating all the time, not always looking to the future, worrying about it. Not like that. That's how you give up following attachment, that's for sure. But it's tough. It's really, this is courageous stuff, you know. This is brave. This is really being brave. But that woman, that was such a powerful example. The greatest regret was I didn't follow my heart. I didn't do what I felt was the right thing. I did what I thought was expected of me. That's attachment to reputation. That's attachment to praise. And that's fear. And we live our lives like that. I mean, when I think about, when I listen to, hear about ordinary relationships that look like nice people living in nice houses with a nice husband, a nice job, and they're not killing each other. They're not murdering each other. They're not living on the street. Nice people. They're living in hell because of this. We should have such compassion. What else, people? Any other questions? So let's talk about how emptiness helps all this. So the point about, so let's, this is me now looking more technically, this is a nurse's point. How is it possible, you know? How is it possible to interpret a thing that is bad in a good way? It seems schizophrenic, you know? That's why I have to use examples of my friends in prison. There's always this one woman I always mention. I know her now. She's out of prison now. Her name is Sunny. She was wrongly accused back in the 70s, 40 years ago. She was a hippie. I always mention her. She was hitching in Florida with her husband, you know, they're hippie kids. And they basically got picked up by two guys, and the police stopped the guys, and the guys killed the police and blamed the hippies. So they're on death row in Florida. Well, you know, about the most hated people on the planet in this country is people on death row, especially if you kill a policeman. So they're treated like worse than animals, you know. And the point was, this is a simple, and this is why about karma. Now, she had no view of karma. She was a nice Jewish girl. She wasn't practicing, but she was a bit of a hippie, and she did yoga and things. That was always the thing that really helped her, yoga. She didn't have Buddhist ideas, you know, not like that. She had no view of karma, not like that. But she had this mind, this extraordinary, courageous mind, that she, in those 17 years, she managed to navigate those 17 years without going crazy. And in fact, came out of prison a wiser, more compassionate person than when she walked in. Because she said she learned to realize that she had the choice to think differently. She didn't have to be, she didn't use these words, but this is the point. She was in prison. She was wrongly accused. Nobody believed her or her husband. The judge, the jury, the police, everybody, nobody believed. She was said to be a police killer, you know, evil. She was in isolation for many years in one cell on her own, you know. Her husband eventually got executed for the same crime. She went to the execution and his head burst into flames. I mean, you can't even describe the nightmare. She had 2 children, I think, or 3. Soon after she was in prison, the children were with her parents, and she was so happy the children were safe. Then the parents got killed in a car accident, so her children were sent off to the system. Every nightmarish thing you could ever imagine that would make most people go mad. Well, she didn't go mad because she changed her mind. Meaning, what I mean by that is she changed the way she interpreted her situation. She learned to find the way to utilize that situation to her own advantage. And the essence of that is, she said, I knew I had a choice to see things in the way that I decided. I mean, this is incredibly courageous. This is all I'm describing as an ordinary person in describing what Buddha says is possible. That's all. This is Buddha's expertise, you know. And the question has to be, why would she want to change her view about being wrongly accused of murdering 2 policemen? Because why should she? And that's the point that we find so hard to hear. All this is to do with emptiness. This is all to do with, because the point is this, Buddha's telling us that nothing has an intrinsic nature as this or that. It's as simple as that. Nothing is set in stone. So this is where, on the one hand, it is true, wrongly accused, sent to prison, lost her children, husband executed. It sounds like enough to make you go completely crazy, because we assume, and Ash's point, that of course it's natural to be absolutely out of your brain if something like that happens. That's the logic, and it is natural. Everybody is like that. And why are we like that? Because we have ego grasping that believes in an intrinsic me, an intrinsic prison, an intrinsic bad, an intrinsic this. And we have it because we have attachment to get what that fantasy ego wants, and we have anger and aversion and despair when it doesn't get what it wants. That's the analysis. So when we understand that analysis, then we realize in those states of mind aren't set in stone. And it's those states of mind that make us interpret situations in life, which is what makes us go crazy. I mean, it's technical, but it's very precise, and it's very precise. And it's up to us, as I said to Inez, that we want to use this. Now, she didn't have those words, but she had this incredible ability. And I would say it this way, she didn't have much anger, because, you know, I mean, this is where something very fascinating. We think anger is a healthy, good quality if you express it properly, and it can be useful. It's true. But the point is, anger is a panic attack when the bad thing happens. Anger is the response when attachment doesn't get what it wants. So I always use another example. I heard about another guy on death row, also innocent, at the same time as this woman, when I first read about her 20 years ago. And this guy would be what we call normal. He went completely out of his mind, screaming daily, I did not rape and kill that woman. I did not rape and kill that woman. Now, they were both the same situation. They were both in prison, both wrongly accused, both innocent, but they had different minds. It's not criticism. This is not judgment. It's just analysis. She had not much anger. We don't even understand. It just sounds like nothing to us. But she didn't. In other words, when this bad things happened, she didn't have a panic attack and go crazy. She would have anger, she said, but she worked with it. She was able to see that she had control over her mind. She knew always she had the choice. And that's an incredible quality to have. This other guy, this is normal. He never thought for 1 millisecond that he ever had a choice but to be angry and go crazy. This is the thing we just don't look at this, you know. But this woman had this ability to see her mind, this ability to see that if she changed the way she saw everything, she was in control of her life and not a victim. This is the essence of it. It's incredible. And the interesting thing is this, they were both innocent. And because she didn't lose her brain, and because she kept her sanity, and therefore she never gave up trying to get free, and she got free eventually. But if you go out of your brain with anger and despair, like whether it's Wendy's, you know, whoever it was, married to her daddy, who's full of suppressed anger, she'll never find a method to heal her arthritis. That's the point. So when we know we have a choice to change our mind, then you can start to find solutions to how to fix yourself. So she got out of prison eventually. She never stopped giving up trying. She never stopped giving up. So giving up anger doesn't mean you become passive. That's the big point. We think it does, but we throw the baby out with the bathwater. She never stopped giving up, for getting freedom. And since she's out of prison now, she's married to a fellow in Ireland. They're both quite old now. And he was also on death row in England, accused of killing 2 policemen, and he got out as well. And then now got a non-profit, and they're helping people who've been falsely accused, who've come out of prison. So she's continuing to help other people the whole time, compassion, you know. I mean, that's a perfect example. It's a living example, not some ancient story of like Miller Raper back in the 11th century. It's a real living story of a real living human being, you know. And talking in ordinary terms, she doesn't have much anger. So anger is a panic attack, and it's completely, how dare that happen to me? I don't deserve it. When you're like this, you are overwhelmed by pain. This is the point the Buddha's making. It's not criticism, not to make us guilty. It's to show why we suffer. We suffer because of these states of mind. And that doesn't mean, as I said, like with, you know, Anas's point, when a boyfriend leaves her, when you stop being angry, it doesn't mean you go, oh, well, it doesn't matter what he does. No, what he did was wrong. He should not have been harming. He should not have cheated on her. That's a fact. But you see the difference between your response to it and his action. So it's never appropriate. It was wrong, but she got wrongly accused and sent to death row, you know. Okay, she doesn't have a view of karma. She asked me a couple of times, but she doesn't talk about it much. She's not interested. That's okay. But I'll have it. In my view is karma, you know, due to, this is the point back to what's his name, point at the center. This is called experience similar to the cause, that from having, first of all, so what's the experience of prison? It's being confined, isn't it? All your freedoms take away. Well, look at the way people treat each other. People confine each other, they imprison them, they lock them in, they take their freedom away, they enslave people. That's what she must have done. How many lives ago? Who knows? That's the direct result of that. Secondly, she was obviously due to past lying. Nobody believed her that she didn't do that action. That's due to past lying. You know, this is the Buddhist view. I mean, my friend doesn't have that view, but the point is, I'm talking about having the mind that doesn't go completely crazy with anger and realize, sitting in that cell 23 hours a day with a Bible, that's all she had, you know. She realized she was in control of her own life. That's it. It's so powerful, so profound, so incredible, so admirable. And that's proving the point that I'm trying to get at. That if prison had an intrinsic nature, meaning, and that, of course, this is now the emptiness discussion. If there was something intrinsic, definite, in its bones, absolute, certain, real, ugly prison, she could never have been happy. Not possible. But that's what we believe. We believe if you'd gone to that poor guy who was out of his brain with rage and despair, if you go to him and say, well, you know, Buddha says you can change your mind, he would look at you with absolute shock. But I'm allowed to be angry, we will say. Would think you're mentally ill if you weren't angry. That's our view. That's our world, isn't it? But I'm allowed, I mean, you know, if a nurse's boyfriend leaves her, but if I tell her, you know, maybe you can change your mind, she'd be shocked. But I'm allowed to be jealous. I'm allowed to be angry. What do you mean I should change? He should change. That's the way we talk. This is the talk of the delusions. It's all out there from its own side, and I'm this innocent victim. It's a tough view, but it's incredible. It's so empowering, and we can hear it properly. And it's implying there's no intrinsic prison, no intrinsic good, no intrinsic bad, which doesn't mean there's no good and there's no bad. It doesn't mean there's no prison, so don't chuck the baby out with the bathwater. It's a very subtle point. That's why this book of Lama Zopa's is coming out soon. We're doing a special website to try and make it. I'm trying, you know, it's a book. Rinpoche asked me to put together all the letters that he wrote to his prisoners the last 20 years. Prisoners write to him, you know, but at least 100 letters over the years. And so I put them all together as a book, not as letters. We did them as a coherent narrative. And of course, being Lama Zopa, it's all completely this level of practice, transforming problems into happiness, you know, seeing it as good, seeing prison as good, being happy you've been accused, you know, I mean, it's too shocking for the world. So anyway, it's published. Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive putting it out. And then and my Bodhicitta Trust funded it, and we're going to do a website as a fundraiser for the prison project. It'll come out soon. I'll send it to all the centres. But this book is completely, I mean, Lama Zopa calls it, his titles are outrageous. What's he call his book? It's called, I have to tell you the title. He makes very funny, wonderful titles. I'll tell you. But it's completely this view, it's completely this attitude, completely this view of transforming happiness problems into suffering. And of course, you can't imagine anything worse than being dumped in a garbage dump prison, you know. Where's the book? I'll tell you the name. I forget it. He asked me to. Oh, I've got it in my iPad. I'll show you. Anyway, it'll come out soon, and it's a fundraiser for the prison project, so buy it. And get an ebook as well. Where is it? Here it is. You won't see it. I don't think it'll be too hard to see it, I think. But it's called, he wanted me to call it this, Enjoy Life, Liberated from the Inner Prison, then the outer prison won't become the real prison. Quite a mouthful. There's the book. I don't know if you can see it. You can't see it. That's no good. There you go. I forget it. Too late. Never mind. I'll send it all to you soon. So the point is, the whole book is about this. And it's too shocking, you know. I mean, people don't want to publish it because it's just too shocking for the world to think that there you are with long sentences in these garbage dump prisons, and you learn to see it as good. Well, he had a whole chapter, and this is the point about emptiness. He had a whole chapter. He's got a whole chapter in there talking about how Tibetans, these great meditators, these yogis, who want to find some little isolated hole in the wall, and they close up the wall, they lock themselves into this little ugly dark cave for the rest of their life with just a hole in the wall where they can get their food. And they call it a hermitage. They call it meditation cave, and they look for it and they want it and they yearn to go to it. So he said that proves right there. He said that, and he said, at least you get food. They don't even have food. But we don't want to hear this, you know. We don't want to hear it because we feel it's not fair. And not fair means anger. How dare that happen to me? This is so heavy. This view is really intense, but it's so amazing if we can be courageous. And of course, take it according to our capacity, you know. Like, you know, so I've got a relationship with Francisco and I'm still at the level of being a victim, completely overwhelmed by my suffering and my misery and my jealousy and my rage. And then he starts beating me up and my practice is not to transform that into happiness. My practice is to have enough self-respect to get the hell out of that ridiculous maniac's life, you know, have the courage to make a decision to leave him. That would be my choice at that point. So you've got to know where you're at, what practice you can do, you know, that's the point. So Rinpoche's advice is so intense. The whole chapter, all about these people in hermitages, in much more, you know, dumpy places, but they want to do that because they want to meditate. So it's really, so all he's trying to prove is that if we've got the courage, again, don't think you got to sit there and be miserable if you don't have to. I don't have to sit there and put up with Francisco's punches. That's inappropriate. I need to get the hell out of his relationship. And that's part of the problem in our culture. We're so paralyzed, we don't even make that decision. We sit there like a duck until he beats us one day and kills us, because we can't even have the courage to make the decision to leave the crazy guy. We just are paralyzed. So we can't make the decision to leave him. And then someone says to me, well, Ben, if you're going to stay with him, then maybe you can start to change your mind about it and see it as good. No, I can't do that. He's evil. He's bad. So we are paralyzed, and that's how we live our lives. We live in a situation that is miserable. We don't know how to change the situation, and we don't know how to change our view of the situation. That's the nightmare of most people's lives. That's it. Like hell, living in hell. That's the inner prison. That's what Moshe talks about all the time, the inner prison. And it's not a joke. It's true. And my friends in prison know it is true. My friend on death row, Mitch, I always mention him, I think. He's getting close to his death date. Been 30 years on death row. He killed somebody. He's now, you know, completely changed his mind. He's a marvelous human being and he's a happy guy. Living in this garbage dump place. Takes care of people. Makes things for people. Funny as anything. Getting ready for his execution, you know. He's changed his mind. He's changed his mind. He's changed his mind. That's it. He's changed his mind. He can't change his prison, but he's changed his mind. And that's what I find powerful about my prisoner friends. So Buddha says, if you can change something, leave. If I can give him a key and let him out, he'd be happy, you know. If I could have given a key to Sunny before she would have been happy to leave. But if you can't change it, that's the point. The logic is so clear. If you can't change it, then change your mind about it. That's all transforming problems means. That's all the eight-body Dharmas means, you know. Seeing something bad as good. Lama Zopa says we need to learn to like problems like we like ice cream. But slowly, slowly, according to our capacity. One baby step at a time, you know. So it's time to go again. Look, gone like a dream. And I've raved on for 2 hours. I'm sorry. I hope there's something useful. No questions?
Venerable, there's one.
Good, tell me.
Oh, sorry, I just want to ask this question about, like, you say that, like, you should do what you find rightful. And imagine this hypothetical situation that someone, like, doing, like, some job and seeing that it's, like, not good job because perhaps some other people, like, suffering of this job. But this job buy good life to his family and his kids. And if he stops...
I don't understand your question. Start again. Start again. Keep it simple. What's the question?
So, like you say that people should do what they think rightful. Imagine that someone
should try and make a decision to do what is not driven by attachment, not driven by fear, not driven by anger, not driven by jealousy, not driven by greed. That is what I'm saying. So what's the question? Huh? What's the question?
If someone doing something and from this like another people suffer, but
I don't understand the question, sorry. What do you mean by suffer? If you make it, all you can do, listen to me, all you can do is follow what is the right thing to do. You can't guarantee that everybody will love you. That's not possible. Not possible. Not possible. So you do a job, you try and do a job that won't harm others. You do a job that's not based on anger, greed, and all those things. You try to do a job that based upon the motivation to help you become a better person and to help others. You can't do more than that. But if you decide you're one political party and you do that for one political party, but another person hates you, that's their problem. You're not causing them suffering. They're causing themselves suffering. Are you understanding me?
Yeah, okay, then perhaps.
I mean, if you decide it is most beneficial to become a Buddhist, but your mother hates Buddhism, you can't help you don't do it on purpose to hurt your mother, but you do it for the right motivation to become a better human being. But your mother has a narrow mind, let's say, and she thinks you're evil. That's her problem. You didn't cause that. We can't guarantee that other people won't like what we do. That's not the issue. That's what most people are afraid to do what they want and do the right thing because they're afraid that other people mightn't like them. Then you go crazy. Are you understanding me? Are you understanding me?
Yeah, just.
Well, you got to think about it, honey.
Yeah.
Talk about it with your friends right behind you. You can discuss it in the next discussion. Any other questions? Huh? Nothing else? Nothing? Nobody? Hello, Michelle, in the Netherlands. How are you, darling? Are you in Amsterdam? Good. Happy to see you. That's it, people? Huh? There's all this silence.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay. And there's Fernando translating into Spanish for people. How kind he is in Mexico. He's quite busy. Who are you
Yes, I'm in
translating
Mexico.
for, Fernando? Who are
I'm
you
translating for Francisco, Malu, Salvador, Luis and Efrain, which are all here.
Okay. Very good. I'm so glad. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Very kind. Well, thank you, people.
Last week.
We keep moving. We never give up and keep aspiring to do what is most beneficial. Keep aspiring to do what is most beneficial. Keep aspiring to do what is most beneficial. All right? Goodbye, darlings. Much love. Jantrub, Central Rinpoche, Nate Panam, Panyam Pame, Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much, Venerable.